and had to prove that they had a canine good citizen test passed, then we would have ourselves a darn good city to let our dogs walk around on cafes. So the problem is that we need to actually do things to take care of, our dogs' behaviors in terms of interacting with our fellow citizens. And one of the things that bugs me the most, just drives me crazy, is just walking down the street, not even talking about going into a business. People will let their dogs lift their legs and piss on the walls of businesses or of the apartment building or the planter outside. That stinks. That encourages other dogs to lift their legs and piss on the walls and on the planters of the businesses. And now all their customers, with or without dogs, have to walk into the store or into the restaurant with a strong smell of piss deeply embedded in the stone or masonry or what have you of that building. Because you decided you weren't going to force your dog to pee in a more appropriate place. Right there, that tells you that we don't deserve to have our dogs in businesses. Because we collectively, instead of 90% of us being on the side of, let's not make the business have a stinky entrance like it's graffiti, and not let our dogs urinate near the entrances and on the walls of businesses and apartment buildings, instead of 90% of us not allowing that, 90% of the population seems to just think it's okay, and they don't even notice it's happening. So, there you go. If you want businesses to be more friendly towards having dogs in or near their business, then you are responsible for making sure your dog does not urinate on their business. If they defecate on the sidewalk, don't just pick it up with a plastic bag. Make sure you have wet wipes to clean it up off the sidewalk so that the customers who walk in that store don't accidentally track in feces on the floor, inside, on microscopic levels maybe, but please, think about this. Why would a business want that tracked into their house, their place, that they invest in? Because people aren't even responsible enough to take care of the sidewalk in front of their business, as if it's their own. So another deal, aggression, chaotic. Nobody needs a lot of aggressive behavior with dogs posted up outside or inside. So if we had actually 90% of our population with dogs who are well behaved with distractions and could stay with a tied leash, we might see more dog leash tie up spaces so that even though they can't go in, the dogs could actually be around each other and not try to kill each other or the people walking by. So that is also our fault that we can't do that. That's our fault. Now, on that note, there is a new law that's been signed by Governor Brown, who, I don't even know the name of the law. They nickname it Bon Appetit, but whatever. It's effective January 1st. And the law basically says that restaurant owners have the choice to allow dogs to dine with their customers on the patio. Yeah, guess what? You see all those restaurant owners who allow dogs to be on the patio or outside their building, like a cafe or a coffee shop? They were breaking the law, technically. They went out of their way and risked getting cited and paying money or going to court, plus the liability, plus the destruction, by allowing you to have your dogs on the patio or outside the business in the tables and chairs area. Yeah, they were actually breaking the law. So now, January 1st, 2015, it's legal to do so if there's access onto the patio from the outside so the dogs do not get walked through the restaurant, and if they said the dogs are well behaved, which is pretty ambiguous because most people think their dogs are well behaved, and I say no, they ain't. But anyway, that they're on leash. They still have to be on leash, guys. They're away from areas where food is prepared. Sometimes they have outdoor preparation areas and things like that. Dogs cannot be on the seats or the benches, so you still can't put your dog on your lap or in a chair next to you. Okay? So, here's the thing. My concerns are this. Because a lot of people think that their dogs are well behaved and they actually aren't well behaved and well trained, we have a problem with dogs who are going to be barking and whining, begging for food, possibly begging for food from other customers because people aren't paying attention or don't care, because they think that that's just okay for dogs just to wander around and forage for their own thing, because they're dogs, and that's what they do, supposedly. So then we have a possibility of food aggression, where a dog may be perfectly capable of being under the table or under the bench where you're sitting outside, but a waiter walks by, I'm old. A server walks by with a plate of food or several plates of food for another table, and that dog gets aggressive because they're trying to protect the food that's on their table. Because anybody who walks by is fair game for stealing, right? That's how a dog sees it, because that's what dogs do. So we also have the dog-to-dog aggression over territory and feeding space, right? So you're going to see where this can turn into a real liability. And the restaurant owners still have the right, by the way, folks, just so you know, don't get all persnickety here. And if you have a neighbor who does it, or somebody, you go to a restaurant and you're sitting outside and the owner says, we don't allow dogs on the patio, and they throw a fit about the new law, the restaurant owner still has the option to say no. Why? Because they could still get sued and lose their business over somebody's so-called well-behaved dog. So it does not require the restaurant owners to allow the dogs. It just gives them the option without being considered breaking the law and getting cited and all that stuff. But they're still taking a big risk. So here's the deal. If you want to be able to go to businesses, especially the restaurants in 2015, when you want to be able to actually take your dog and not have a kerfuffle, here are the things that you need to actually train your dog to do. I think there should be a doggy diner test for California. But anyway, you teach your dog to urinate and defecate on command and on command only while on leash. That's right. That's service dog level. That's therapy dog level. That's canine good citizen. That they only go off to urinate or defecate when you tell them to, when they're on leash. Off leash is a different deal. But on leash, they hold it until you say, okay, go over there. Within 12 seconds is my rule. So that's the deal. You got to be able to do that on command if you want to be able to take your dog anywhere and start creating a canine good citizen atmosphere, thanks to AKC. But you wanted to start building the reputation of this city of having well-trained, well-behaved dogs, really well-behaved, not like they're so sweet and they're rescues and all that garbage. Okay? You want really well-trained dogs, and we need to change this, make a revolution out of this, because, basically what I'm saying is put me out of business. So what you want to do is teach them to do these things. Urinate and defecate on command and only on command, off and while they're on leash. Off leash is completely different. They can go at will. You need to train your dog to ignore distractions, including dogs and people on leash. People, don't distract dogs that are on leash. If they're cute and lovable, look the owner in the eye and say, you have an attractive dog or you have a cute dog. Don't get the dog all riled up. All right? Just control yourself. It's a dog. It happens. There are dogs out there. All right. Teach the dog a place or park it. Place means that you actually, and I'm popping the peas like crazy. Place means that you actually have to teach the dog to either lay down or sit on a particular spot. So like a mat or something like that, like a cheap bathroom mat from IKEA. I love IKEA for training supplies. $1.49 you can get yourself a little mat. And the dog has to land on that and lay down or sit down. You teach them place. Now park it is my word for teaching the dog to do the same thing but under a bench or under a table, so that they're out of the way of everybody and they're not a nuisance. So that is also a service dog level training, sort of on the very basics, okay? So you need to teach your dog that as well. Yes, got it. I already talked about it. I jumped the gun. I was ad-libbing after I wrote down my notes. So also teach your dog how to socialize properly by only visiting people and dogs on your command and when everyone's calm. So you actually have to teach your dog to wait till you say it's okay to go forward. I had an experience with Cassie, my previous dog who passed away. She was so well behaved that people would try to outbid each other to watch her over a weekend if I had to leave for a weekend, because she was so cool to take out that anybody could walk her. She would follow anybody, what they said. She didn't have to, like, nobody had to, like, if she said, you said sit, she did it. If you did with hand signals, she did it. So, and she, whatever you said, if you left her in the car, like, you know, like I had one lady who took care of her. She had a Jeep, left her in the Jeep to go get something over in the gas station, came back, there she was, just sitting in the same spot, just waiting calmly. So that's the kind of thing you want to go for. One of the things that she did was that, you know, because she was so well behaved, I could take her to places like restaurants that would allow the dogs, illegally at the time, and to the dog beach and all that stuff. And when she was really, really sick and we knew that she wasn't going to live much longer, I took her to all those other places that we had gone to frequently and I could go frequently. I could take her places and not worry about her. I could tell her stay and go to the bathroom in the restaurant and know that no one could take the leash if I had told her stay. But if I said, okay, you can go with that person, she would follow them if they took the leash. So this is the kind of thing that you need to have to actually kind of go that direction. And I guarantee you, what did I say? 90% of the time, those dogs on the patio starting January 15th are going to be complete a-holes. So now, because people now they don't know they can, they will, and they'll take advantage and just assume that the dog is just so sweet and it's a lovely little rescue and he can't help it and all that stuff. So another thing I want you to envision here is when I was working at a training facility, Cassie was at my side on leash, and there's a whole bunch of people and dogs walking around socializing. I was standing still with her, and she kept eyeing this one biker dude. She had this thing about men. She was very flirtatious. She was like that since she was like a 9-week-old puppy. She was a little bit of a whore. So she kept looking at this man, then looking at me, and looking at this man, and looking at me, and I was like, she was being really good and stayed there for a long time. I said, okay, you can go visit. So I released her from the leash, and I just didn't think about it. I turned around, and I started talking to other people, etc., and all of a sudden I heard this, oh my God, what is she doing? And I turned back over to where this man was standing, and he was up against the wall, holding the wall with his hands in his butt, just freaking out. And there was my dog viciously sitting 1 foot away and looking at him in the eyes. And he's like, I said, she just wants you to pet her, and if you don't, and before I finished, she just calmly walked away. I said, well, if you don't pet her, she'll just walk away like that. And he finally calmed down after she walked away, and he's like, I've never seen that before. I said, that's what a well-trained dog should do to meet people. Not whine, not claw, not roll over and pee on themselves, not pee on the floor in any way, not jumping on them, but sit 1 foot away, calmly, and look them in the eye. And if they don't want to pet, they don't interact, they walk away. That's where we need to go, people. That's the revolution. Either that, or I'm going to be in business for a very, very long time. So, anyway, back to business. A reminder again that this weekend we have 1 basic obedience on Saturday, 2 street obedience, 1 Saturday, 1 Sunday, bluecollarworkingdog.com. And then there's the Pack Leadership 101 seminar, because, you know, apparently I need to read Cesar Millan's books. That's the rumor on the street. Anyway, oh, dear God, he lived that night. He lived. As always, as I always say, in the dog world, to love is to serve. So let your dog serve you in little ways every day to build their self-esteem, to build up their trust in you, and to have that really special pack relationship with your dog, a true family relationship. And until then, I may or may not be here next week. Oh my God, I might be on set next week. Well, I'm on set, but I don't know if I'll make it. So hopefully I'll talk to you next week. If not, it'll be 2 weeks. You'll just have to hear a rerun of one of my yapid things going on. All right, till next week, folks. Talk to you later.